The following podcast contains bizarre theories, strange facts, and some out-of-this-world opinions. Listener discretion is advised, especially if you trust the government. What if I told you they weren't trying to control the world, but they were trying to empty it? Think about it. Fewer people means fewer problems, fewer revolts, fewer angry mobs with pitchforks and too many questions. Imagine a planet not crawling with 8 billion unpredictable humans, but a neat little dystopia with just enough compliant citizens to keep the lights on. This isn't sci-fi, this is the Depopulation Agenda. And if the theories are true, it's already happening. Welcome to Conspiracy. Conspiracy. Hello you guys, and welcome back to Conspiracy. This is the show where no story is too strange, no theory too far-fetched, and no one is safe from our deep dives into the unknown. It's basically the podcast where we ask the questions no one else dares to ask, while making maybe too many jokes about end of the world stuff and casually getting flagged by government bots. I'm Ash, your host, your guide into the world of conspiracies, and quite often, the devil's advocate. If you're new around here, welcome to the rabbit hole on Conspiracy. We cover conspiracy theories, weird mysteries, ancient histories, all whilst having a bit of a laugh. This podcast isn't just for those who wear tinfoil hats, this is for everyone who's looking for some light entertainment, as this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes only. Wink wink. If you do follow the podcast, you may have noticed that I haven't dropped an episode in about a month. I'm not gonna lie to you, I've just been enjoying some holiday time, been getting some sun, relaxing, enjoying some me time, working out, and, researching the weirdest conspiracies, of course. But now I'm back in the full swing of things and sticking to the same schedule as before. I'm releasing new episodes every Wednesday, so if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find all episodes of Conspiracy for free on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you do want to get in touch, you can reach me on TikTok and Instagram at Conspiracy, or via email conspiracy@gmail.com. And if you do enjoy any of the episodes, let me know or leave me a review. It's the only way we're going to grow, guys, so get those reviews in. And with all that being said, let's take a look at why the fuck we're here today. Because we're talking about something that might hit a little close to home. Like your actual home. Your food, your body, and maybe your reproductive organs. Yep, it's one of those episodes. In today's episode, we're covering the Depopulation Agenda. So, we'll be casually covering the following topics: billionaires with population targets, vaccines that might do more than just boost your immune system, climate policies that sound a lot like eugenics, and a suspiciously high number of seed vaults and sperm banks popping up underground. Yep, we're so back. Classic Wednesday topics. But before we dive in any further, let's get this bit out of the way, because this episode is full of big theories, dark jokes, and mildly illegal levels of speculation. Nothing in this podcast is medical advice, and I'm not trying to get deplatformed, sued, or mysteriously unalived. If you work for the WHO, the Gates Foundation, or any billionaire-run biosurveillance firm, this is a comedy podcast. Please don't send drones. If you're a listener with a weak constitution, you may also want to skip this one. Otherwise, let's talk about why the big they might not want you to exist. Let's dive in. So, what actually is the Depopulation Agenda? This is one of those conspiracies that does sound like it comes from a bad sci-fi script, until you take a look around at the state of the world and go, hang on a bit, what if this is real? The basic theory is this: there is a deliberate, coordinated, and global effort by the elite. We're talking governments, billionaires, shadowy organizations like the World Economic Forum, to dramatically reduce the world's population. So, not just slow down growth, not just encourage birth control, we're talking about actually getting rid of people silently, strategically, maybe even stylishly. And we have to ask, why would anyone want fewer humans? Well, let's be honest, people are fucking annoying. People are annoying. We ruin things, we riot, we vote wrong, we breathe too much, and don't even get me started on, British lads on holiday in Ibiza, because, I'm surprised that alone doesn't trigger a UN population summit, to be fair. But for real, the idea is that overpopulation is being used as an excuse to justify all sorts of creepy interventions. So whether it's to save the planet, protect resources, or manage stability, the goal is always the same. You gotta shrink the population and keep only the useful ones. So I'm fucked, I'm gone. But this isn't just, tinfoil hats, whispering in basements. This is stuff that does get mentioned in official documents. Like, for example, that time when Prince Philip said, "In the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus to contribute something to solving overpopulation." Right. Cheers, Phil. Thanks for that one. That's a crazy statement to say as Prince Philip, isn't it? Mad. Or, for example, when former US National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger allegedly drafted National Security Memorandum 200, which straight up said population growth in developing nations could threaten US interests, and hinted at population reduction as a solution. This is happening, guys. Like, for sure. Like, there's no way that you can find all of this information and something like this isn't happening. But how would they do it? That's the thing. How would they try and achieve mass depopulation? Well, you got to take a look at a combo of things, right? There's so many things that they could do and probably are doing to achieve this. Things like engineered pandemics. We've seen that recently. Sterilising vaccines. So many reports of that COVID jab leading to sterilisation. Food contamination. We've seen that a bunch with all the different kind of chemtrails being dropped over food and all the different chemicals that are put onto food. You've got things like 5G frequency manipulation, or now 6G as we're moving into that, being able to physically manipulate your cells from a 5G, 6G tower. And when you look at what is happening in the world right now, you've got a lot of war happening, famine, hunger, starvation. It's tipping towards an economic collapse. I mean, all of these things are contributing to depopulating the earth, getting rid of as many people as possible. And also, most disturbingly, you have to look at ideological conditioning, aka slowly convincing you that not having kids is morally virtuous. Because, in my opinion, that is the trick. If you can't force people to disappear, convince them to self-eliminate. And listen, I get it. Kids are expensive. They're sticky, they're loud, they're disgusting at times, they're smelly. And I was holding a baby the other week, and it immediately pissed on my arm like a tree, and I was like, I'd have to go through this one day with my own child. But if your reason for not having children is things like the planet's too hot, when billionaires are popping out rocket-shaped joyrides, maybe the issue isn't you, maybe it's the people selling you the guilt of having a baby and bringing it into this type of world. So, who would be behind something like this? There's a few candidates. right? You've got the UN. They would do it through Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030, which we'll touch on a little bit later. You've got billionaires, especially ones obsessed with eugenics and saving the planet. Big Pharma, they're funding tech that allegedly alters fertility, lifespans, human behavior. You've also got tech moguls, so they're involved in this AI, biometric tracking, and reproductive tech that we're moving into this, futuristic world of everything is fabricated and it's AI and tech based rather than natural born, natural produced things. And you've also got, you've got your secret societies in there too. They're always in the mix of a bit of flavour, Bilderberg, WEF, Skull and Bones. And the ultimate boss level, the elite. The faceless powerful, always watching, they. And there's that possibility that it's all of them together, working together in unison for one big goal. But don't worry, they absolutely do not meet in castles wearing robes. Nah. They're normal, they just don't want your kids to exist. But let's crack on, because we'll be covering some of those candidates in the next sections. But for now, it's time to talk about the world's most suspicious philanthropist and spreadsheet enthusiast. So let's talk about Bill Gates, tech mogul, charity bro, farmer of the year, the man, the myth, the murderously mild-mannered billionaire. To normies, he's that slightly awkward tech guy who got rich off Windows, who retired early, and now floats around the world being the human version of Clippy. He's offering unsolicited help wherever nobody asked. But in the conspiracy world, Bill Gates is probably, public enemy number one. He's like if Jeffrey Epstein and Dr. Fauci had a baby and then gave it a vaccine full of nanobots. That is who Bill Gates is in the conspiracy world for sure. So let's take it from the top. Bill Gates didn't just stumble into philanthropy one day after selling some copies of Microsoft Excel. This man has always had a god complex since day one. His parents, his dad was William Gates Sr., he was a powerful lawyer and a former head of Planned Parenthood, the organisation frequently caught in controversy over population control and eugenics. His mother was linked to IBM, which helped launch Microsoft. So, this wasn't a garage startup story as they always claim. This was a dynastic, globalist chess game, for sure. He wasn't just building Minesweeper, he was sweeping minds. And he had some early obsessions, right? Gates has always shown a creepy obsession with controlling biology, trafficking humans. Tracking humans, sorry. He also probably traffics humans as well. Okay. Controlling biology, tracking humans, and funding systems that tell people how to live, reproduce, and die. But, instead of going down that classic Bond villain route that so many of them do, he threw on a beige jumper, learned how to mumble like Kermit the Frog, and said, I want to save the world. Because I guess that's how you hide the villainy, by pretending that you're too awkward to achieve it. That's until 2010 arrives and we get the TED Talk heard around the internet. 2010, the TED stage, and here's Billy G, clicker in hand, standing in front of a big old graph about CO2 emissions, saying, and I quote, "The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 to 15%. End quote. Now, if you're not a lizard in a human suit, you kind of hear that and go, I'm sorry, what? Since when do vaccines lower population? I thought, we're all sold this dream that vaccines are supposed to save lives. But no, to Gates, saving the planet means reducing the amount of people on it. And that quote became legendary. Cut, clipped, reposted on every alt media platform, you name it. It was the moment the mask slipped. And look, if you're a billionaire on stage trying to convince the world you're the good guy, I don't know, maybe don't say let's reduce population with healthcare. Especially with the same tone as you'd expect a cereal advert to be taking place. Like, the man sounded like he was proud of it. Like, hey guys, we got vaccines, we got great healthcare, and also guess what? You're not going to need nappies in the future because we're going to reduce the population and stop you having kids with all of these vaccines that are supposed to cure you from all your illnesses. Like, are you solving a problem or is this a threat? Like, it's a very, very weird statement to make in 2010 from Billy G. So, as always, the world hears something absolutely fucking mental like that and moves on like nothing happened and we're all kumbaya. So what does Gates do next? Well, he launches the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He pours billions into vaccine research and partners with the WHO, GAVI, and pretty much every global health agency on Earth. Now again, if you're a sweet summer child, living blissfully through life without, thinking about things too much, it sounds lovely. He's working with all the health agencies, he's curing the world with his vaccines and his foundation. But if you have at least one brain cell, you might be saying, he's not vaccinating to save lives. He's vaccinating to end lineages. He's depopulating the Earth. Who would have thought it? And there are a few indications where his vaccines or his programs, his foundation, have been working on sterilization programs. And here's where it gets interesting, guys, because there are multiple incidents across Africa and Asia where Gates-funded vaccine programs caused unexplained infertility, hormonal imbalances, miscarriages in young women, and severe side effects in children. One example is in Kenya, Catholic doctors accused the WHO and Gates-backed campaigns of distributing tetanus vaccines laced with HCG. This is a hormone used in birth control. The vaccines were making women infertile without their consent. The WHO denied it, of course, but guess what they did? They also refused third-party testing. Suspiciously convenient. Also, I don't know why I'm thinking about this now, because we're talking about Kenya, but now I'm thinking about the Antarctica, maybe just like opposites attract or something, but why is Gates helping build a seed vault in the Arctic? Why is that a thing? Like, why are you chilling in Norway with 1 million embryos? Unless you're prepping for a post-collapse world where you emerge from the bunker and replant humanity like Minecraft, I have questions. And not fun questions. Questions like, why are you collecting seeds while distributing syringes? And, well, now I'm in full swing of things because there's even more red flags, because why also does he own so many farms now? Gates is now the largest private owner of farmland in the United States. He's investing in lab-grown meat, synthetic crops, and climate-friendly agriculture. Now, I don't know about you, but you gotta ask, why would a software billionaire suddenly want control over what people eat and how they reproduce? Why? Well, it's the game. It's the whole game right there. Control food, control health, control reproduction, you control population. And that's how Ash sees it. and there's more. Don't worry, there's more. Gates has also funded digital ID programs to track who is and who is not vaccinated. He's also involved in CRISPR, CRISPR, the gene editing tech. He's also backed wearables that monitor fertility, sleep, mood, you name it. It monitors it all. Just checking if his depopulation is going to plan. And he even suggested spraying the atmosphere with chalk to dim the sun. And that's what they've done that in the UK recently. Like, literally, it was announced about a month ago that they are spraying the sky to dim the sun. That you can go online and you can Google it, UK dimming the sun. If that's not just, hey, chemtrails have been a thing the whole time. Like, what the fuck? It's knowledge now. Nobody seems to care. Like, are we living in a Black Mirror episode that's being sponsored by Office 365? Like, what is going on? I don't know. Maybe Bill Gates is just a misunderstood genius. Or, more likely, he's the smiling face of technocratic depopulation. And the reason he wants you to get so many vaccines is because one of them, just one, maybe more, is designed to switch off your baby maker forever. But all I'm thinking is, if Windows, when you use Windows, it's pretty shit, right? And if Windows crashes every time I use it, maybe, I don't know, I don't want that guy who created Windows to be the guy in charge of updating my DNA. Like, just, I don't know. I don't want anyone in charge of that, but this guy, really? Alright, so we've talked about population reduction as an idea. We've discussed Bill Gates, Billy G. But now, let's take a look at the tools allegedly being used to actually carry this out. Because if you think they're gonna reduce humanity using tanks and nukes, you're clearly not paying that much attention. That's old school. It's too noisy, it's too obvious, too expensive. You know, let's have some wars going on just to distract everyone from what is really going on. But, you know, they're not going to be using warfare and nukes to achieve this agenda. Definitely not nukes, because they don't want a situation of MAD, right? MAD, mutually assured destruction. One nuke goes off, two nukes go off, 100 nukes go off, and we arrive in this situation of mutually assured destruction. The end of the world. But no, in the 21st century, if you want to eliminate a few billion people, you do it quietly. And you make them say thank you as you do it. You make them line up for it, get in a queue for it, join an app for it. And this is an idea that's called soft warfare. Right? So soft warfare, you can forget the bullets, you forget the armies. The idea is pretty simple. Why fight wars to reduce populations when you can just poison their food, sterilize them with medicine, and gaslight them into thinking it's for their own good? We saw this prime example a few years ago. Yeah, don't need to say anymore. The depopulation agenda doesn't want martyrs. It wants willing participants in their own extinction. And nothing illustrates this better than the modern vaccine movement. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't necessarily anti-vax talk or pro-vax talk. I think everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their own choice. Your body, you do what you want with it. You can put in what you want. Take out what you want. It's up to you. But this is conspiracy talk, right? So there's a difference. Mainstream history says vaccines were mankind's miracle, wiping out polio, smallpox, measles, you name it all, except cancer for some reason. But, you know, when you look at the rise of modern pharmaceutical giants, you can kind of go, wait a minute, these are the same corporations who've paid billions in lawsuits, falsified safety data, and patented life-saving medicine just to hoard profits. And now they want to inject every person on Earth for free? Yeah. Very normal move for corporation giants who run purely based on making unbelievable profits off of sick people, are now willing to give it all away for free. Yeah. Well, maybe it's free in a monetary sense, but maybe it's costing other things. Things like suppressing fertility, especially in young women and men under the age of 30, causing long-term autoimmune disorders, interfering with embryonic development, collecting DNA en masse for eugenics and control, and maybe to train the public to accept constant injections and medical obedience. And if you do all of that, maybe you're then hooked on this pharmaceutical journey where you then have to keep going back for more vaccines, and that's the 5th jab and the 6th jab, and also take this pill and this medication because you're going to need that now to help with the things that we've made happen to your body. And therefore you're on the choo-choo train of pharmaceuticals, and they're profiting. And the method to kick all of this off? mRNA. mRNA. So, the COVID mRNA vaccine was marketed as a revolution in science. But it's easy to argue that it's not a miracle. It was the test run, pretty much. Not curing you, they're rewriting you. mRNA vaccines essentially turn your body into a temporary pharmaceutical factory, programming your cells to manufacture a spike protein which your immune system then attacks. So it sounds slick. They make it sound very interesting and very technological and blah blah, whatever. But if it can turn your body into a factory like that, is able to program your cells to manufacture something, what else could be programmed? Could the system accidentally or intentionally interfere with reproductive proteins? Could it instruct your body to attack parts of itself? Around the time of mass global mRNA rollouts, strange things started happening, of course. There was a surge in irregular menstrual cycles, fertility clinics reporting sudden drop-offs in viable eggs, spikes in miscarriages and stillbirths in women who had previously been healthy, young men experiencing drops in testosterone, sperm motility, and testicular pain. And that's just to name a few. And now, sure, mainstream sources blame stress and diet, climate change, even long COVID. But what if the warnings that so many professionals were trying to get out to the world before being silenced, that they're sterilizing us quietly, gently, globally, what if that's true? And what about when women actually tried to report their symptoms at the time? Medical authorities shrugged it off. Social media shadow banned them. And the narrative just moved on. And side note on COVID, I gotta touch on it just lightly because it is the elephant in the syringe. I think COVID-19 was just a test run. It was the first global simulation of mass medical obedience, constant fear loops, controlled narratives, digital vaccine passports, censorship of dissent, and the introduction of mRNA tech to the entire human species at once. And listen, we're not doing the full COVID episode today. I'll be here all year. But what if COVID was the pilot episode of the Depopulation Agenda miniseries? And listen, I'm treading lightly around the COVID in today's episode because I'm going to do a full episode on specifically COVID and everything that came with that and everything that might come in the future with that. Things like AI nurses, fertility scores, drone monitoring, and a little something called CRISPR trademark. So that's why I'm not deep diving into it too much, because it will be a future episode on conspiracy. Okay, so let's get back to the depopulation agenda. So I found this really interesting, right? Globally, sperm counts have halved since the 1970s. And that's not a maybe or a conspiracy. That's a confirmed stat that's globally accepted by the mainstream science, right? So male fertility is dropping off a cliff, and we don't really know why. There's not really been this is why it's happening and this is how we control it. There are many things that float around about this. Things like, could it be plastics, pesticides, hormone disrupting chemicals in shampoo and food? Or could it be by design? Because actually, if you control sperm, you control legacy. If you remove male fertility, you remove resistance. A sterile man doesn't build a family. A familyless man doesn't defend a tribe. No rebellion. Then you can kind of see where that's going. There's all this attention on maybe women's fertility, they're stopping pregnancies, stuff like that. But what if the way to do it is by stopping the male reproductive organ? Stopping the sperm, lowering the sperm count, lowering the chances of impregnating an egg. And I saw recently in the UK, I'm not sure if it's anywhere else in the world, but they've actually produced now, and it's passed all the checks and all the tests, and it's about to go into mass circulation, the male contraceptive pill, which stops you from, when you bust, there's no fertility there, there's no active sperm, which again, in the kind of the very, very narrow view of that, it's kind of like, well, that's great. I can do what I need to do and not wear protection, things like that. Great, sign me up, give me all of it. That's the very narrow mindset, because when you think about that on a whole, if you stop that from happening, there might not be a way to get that sperm active again, and therefore you are completely cutting off the option of ever having a child. And I know that women have been going through this for decades, right? Taking birth control and stuff like that to stop from having babies. And obviously from the male perspective now, it's becoming a thing in my mind, because it's like when it's on your doorstep, you know? But yeah, I just think it's so alarming. It's like we're getting a soft genocide sponsored by Pfizer, you know? A genocide where no one dies, they just don't have kids. They go to brunch, they freeze eggs, they take hormone shots, they live in city pods and date their VR headsets and love it. Which brings us back to this depopulation agenda isn't about killing people, it's about editing them out of the future. And another layer to that is the DNA data, right? Every PCR test, every vaccine trial, every ancestry kit you post off in the mail is building the largest genomic database in human history. Remember that. You're not just sending it off and then it comes back to you and it's all erased and everything, and everyone moves on with their life. No, you're adding to a database, and it's the largest genomic database ever. And this database can be used to engineer diseases that target specific groups, specific blood types. All the very inner workings of the human body are all captured in these type of tests. They could also be used to optimize who is allowed to reproduce, and possibly map out who's worth saving after the population collapse. It's basically eugenics with a software update. It's basically what I'm saying. Version 2.0 of humanity. No aggression, no independence, no fertility, just compliance. That is pretty much what we're walking into. In every dystopia, the tyranny is always disguised as care. They say, take the shot, it's for your safety, protect the elderly. Yeah. Eat the soy patty, it's for the planet, it reduces climate control, the ice caps are melting. Stop having kids. The Earth can't handle more of you. It's becoming too heavy. It's throwing off the axis. We're going to get hurricanes and earthquakes. And people just say yes, because it's sold as kindness. But maybe, just maybe, the most progressive thing you can do in 2025 is not exist. So who could actually be orchestrating this entire thing? Who has the reach, the power, the bureaucracy, and the utter lack of charisma to quietly depopulate the world from inside a spreadsheet? Well, first up, we have the United Nations, and more specifically, Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. So Agenda 21 does sound like a Jason Bourne sequel, but it's very, very real. It was signed in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, where world leaders gathered to save the planet. Cute. Agenda 21 is pitched as a non-binding plan of action for sustainable development, which is code for, we're going to regulate your food, water, energy, land use, population movement, and reproduction, but we'll do it in a flowery PDF with green font. Many theorists believe Agenda 21 is the depopulation playbook. It's a long-term framework to shift control away from individuals and towards unelected global technocrats. You know, all in the name of sustainability. And then in 2015, Agenda 21 got a bit of a glow up, got a new outfit and a rebrand called Agenda 2030. So same principles, new lipstick. It's built around 17 sustainable development goals, the SDGs, which, you know, sounds lovely, right? Sustainable development, yay, the planet. No poverty, zero hunger, good health, gender equality, climate action, life under the sea. But hidden between the bullet points and rainbow-coloured logos are deeply creepy implications. Because who decides what good health means? Who decides how many kids too many? And who defines equity when distributing food or medicine? The answer is the same people who live behind walls, fly private jets to climate summits, and eat steak while telling you to try bugs. And I just want to say, if I get one more ad telling me that roasted crickets are the protein of the future, I'm going to mail Wagamama a tarantula in a box. The same people who gave us genocide and aspartame now want us to snack on insects. They're like, this mealworm burger saves the rainforest. Yeah. Meanwhile, what, I'm supposed to be sat there chewing a grasshopper leg, wondering if it's poking me from the inside or what? Like, am I on Khao San Road in Thailand? What's going on? But yeah, apparently they want us to eat bugs, guys. Stop eating meat. Another key component of Agenda 2030 is actually population redistribution. The plan is to remove people from rural land, which is inefficient, and push them into dense, smart cities where every movement is trackable, every device is connected, and you own nothing. But don't worry, you'll be happy! Woo! Kind of sounds like where the UK is heading right now, to be honest. The UN calls this resilient urban infrastructure. Yeah, well, I call it open air surveillance camp. And once you're in the city, guess what? You eat what they provide. You move how they allow. You reproduce when permitted, if permitted at all. Because what better way to control population than digitizing every basic necessity of life, right? And that's paired with the entire climate crisis, or should I say narrative. As real or manipulated as you believe it is, it always ends with the same message. There are too many people, you're the problem, please stop existing so aggressively. Stop doing those things you do and save the planet. You, yes, you listener, you're the problem. Stop doing the things you do on a day-to-day basis that are killing this planet. Because we're okay up here with our private jets and doing all whatever we want to do. But you, yeah, you stop. Because, you know, the solution is absolutely definitely not rein in mega corporations. It's don't have kids, don't drive, don't eat meat, don't heat up your home, don't think, don't breathe too loudly. The UN's own reports have repeatedly said population growth is unsustainable and must be addressed. But they never say how, and maybe the how is sterilize them slowly, abort them culturally, condition them psychologically to want their own extinction. Agenda 2030 is also rolling out digital ID programs that tie together your healthcare, bank accounts, internet access, carbon usage. Can't see anything wrong with that. Carbon credit systems are also being introduced that track how much you're allowed to eat, drive, fly, consume. Yep. And behavioral nudging systems that use gamified feedback to reward compliance. Ayo, we're all gonna be like China. And this is all leading to a total biometric control system, for sure. Things like, if you don't want to get your kids vaccinated, well, then you get no food rations. And you said something wrong on social media, we're gonna revoke your energy allowance. And if you've exceeded your carbon quota, no pregnancy permit for you. They're essentially turning us into a statistic on a dashboard. One misstep and you're digitally erased. And you agreed to it because they called it sustainability. And nobody is asking for this, surely. Like, we just want reusable straws. That's all we want. Just a straw that doesn't melt away. Like, not a digital prison. And they get people on board, don't they, with, save the turtles, use a bamboo straw, plant a tree. But the next thing you'll know, it's, my car won't start because I had too many steaks in June. And what happened to just picking up some litter? Why do I need a retina scan approval to flush a toilet? Like, reverse it all and give us plastic straws. We'll be alright. We'll be alright. The world will heal and we'll move forward. But maybe it's just all like a psychological thing, like a psychological warfare. Like, collapse the population as a virtue. Maybe they're not just sterilizing you biologically. They're doing it mentally. Pushing things like antinatalism, climate anxiety, cultural nihilism, children are a burden narratives. It's selfish to have a family. So now instead of revolting, young people are celebrating their own extinction, buying t-shirts that say save the planet, kill the human, child free and carbon neutral, vasectomy vibes only. Definitely an agenda that's being pushed. You can see it. So many people you talk to go, I don't really want to bring kids into this world. So many people say that. Meanwhile, the elites are like, they're breeding like rabbits, buying gated community. How many kids has Elon Musk got? Got about fucking 25, ain't he? All with weird ass names as well. RV172, X4500.2. I don't know what that man's building, but yeah, he's one of his own, isn't he? And they're not eating bugs. Yeah, I'm back to the bugs because I'm not eating bugs, and they're not eating bugs. I ain't eating bugs. But maybe we're moving into this thing where only the elites will be able to have real food. I mean, we're seeing that so many times now. Like, the milk you buy from the supermarket, it's not actually milk, is it? Like, have you ever had milk from a cow from a farm and you taste that versus milk in a supermarket? Come on now, it's not milk. So maybe that's where we're going. When you look at it, really look at it, Agenda 2030, it's not a plan to save the planet. It's a plan to manage human cattle, to coral, barcode, sterilize, and eventually phase out the non-compliant. It's not about going green, it's about going grey. Emotionless, lifeless, obedient, and if you don't believe it, just wait until your climate score drops below 30 and they auto-deactivate your sperm. So if global depopulation really is the plan, wouldn't you want to leave behind a message, a kind of mission statement? Well, maybe they did. And it's written in 8 languages on 4 19-foot granite slabs in the middle of nowhere Georgia, USA. So, let's get a bit weird, let's go a bit off the beaten track, and take a look at something that's a bit mystical, maybe. Because this is conspiracy. No story is too strange. No theory is too far-fetched, as we say. So what are, or should I say were, the Georgia Guidestones? Well, if you imagine Stonehenge meets a sinister IKEA instruction manual, you get the Guidestones. So it was built in 1980 by an anonymous man calling himself R.C. Christian, which already sounds like a fake name your mate uses to book a hotel. But these massive granite monoliths appeared seemingly overnight in Elbert County, Georgia. No one knew who really funded them. No one could explain their full purpose, but what was carved into them sent shivers down every spine. They contained the 10 Commandments of the New World. Yeah. So this is what was etched into the stones. The 10 Commandments of the New World, right? Number 1, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. 2, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. 3, unite humanity with a living new language. 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. 6, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. 7, avoid petty laws and useless officials. 8, balance personal rights with social duties. 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. And 10, be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature, leave room for nature. Let's just pause at that first one. Maintain humanity under 500 million. If you do the maths, that's a 7.5 billion person reduction. Gone. Wiped out. Sorry you didn't quite make the eco-friendly cut. And clearly they weren't joking, because that is commandment number 1. And listen, I've got a mate called Craig who, he bless him, he believes in crystals and manifestation and all that. He does this type of stuff, right? He writes himself, commandments of the day or the week or whatever. Things like be more hydrated, puts on the kettle, and makes him drink more water. And I can kind of get it. It's kind of conditioning for him to do positive things. But that's just what I think about when I think about this kind of Georgia Guidestone thing, because it's basically the Illuminati's vision board, isn't it? Instead of drink more water, they went, let's kill humanity by 92%. And nobody knows where they came from, or who made them. Just that it was called R.C. Christian, wasn't it? I think that was his name, R.C. Christian. It kind of gives a cult symbolism as well, doesn't it? Maybe it's not just the powers to be, maybe it's some kind of, maybe it's a bit witchy-woo, a bit ritualistic, built on ley lines, or aligned to the North Star and solstices, created with precision measurements of sun and moon cycles, designed to track celestial events for post-apocalyptic future. R.C. Christian himself actually admitted, again, he's anonymous, but apparently he admitted somewhere, that he was part of a small group who believed reason, science, and eugenics should guide the planet after an inevitable collapse. I mean, you couldn't write it more on the nose if you tried, could you? But then, in 2022, July 2022, one of the stones was actually blown up in the middle of the night. Security footage showed a bright flash, an explosion, and then it just blew up. Part of the Guidestone's gone forever. And then, hours after that explosion, the entire monument was demolished, bulldozed, and scrubbed from existence. No one ever claimed responsibility for doing that. The footage was grainy, the investigation went silent, and, maybe it was a cleanup. And remember, it's 2022, so around that time, because after COVID, vaccine passports, Agenda 2030, and a few too many podcasts like this one, maybe people started paying more attention, and maybe the guidestones weren't kind of theory anymore, they became evidence to what's actually going on. And some believe R.C. Christian's name was a nod to the Rosicrucians, which are a secret society of mystics and intellectuals linked to the Freemasons. And in the number of symbolism, the astrological alignments, the global language angle, the obsession with population control, and you've got all the hallmarks of an elite occult ideology trying to manifest a new era. Well, maybe the Georgia Guidestones weren't just a message to future generations, maybe they were instructions, a kind of stone tablet roadmap. After the plague and collapse, here's what to do. Start fresh, call the herd, control the birth rate, worship nature, build back better but quieter. They've now been destroyed, obviously, but what they said, that is kind of already happening. And the ones who wrote it, well, they never left, they never got destroyed. So, who knows where that goes. But with that being said, let's get into the most unsettling part of the depopulation agenda. Not the threats from space, not ancient stone tablets, but the slow, subtle, statistically undeniable collapse of something absolutely fundamental: fertility. We're not talking about a theory anymore, we're talking about a measurable, global, scientifically confirmed decline in fertility rates, sperm count, testosterone, libido, egg quality, birth rates, you name it. And it's not subtle, it's happening everywhere, in every country, across every continent, and this isn't a future problem, it's now. And the scary bit, most people don't seem to give a fuck until it's too late. So I know I briefly kind of covered this earlier in the episode, but I want to kind of dive more into this because I think this is the main way to depopulate the Earth. So let's start with the basics here. In 1950, the average global fertility rate was about 5 children per woman. Today, it's below 2.3 and it's dropping fast. Anything under 2.1 equals population decline. That's the replacement level. Once you go under that, your country starts to disappear. And we're not just talking about places like Japan and Italy, which do have low birth rates. We're talking South Korea is down to 0.72. China has plunged beneath 1. The US, UK, Canada and Australia are all below replacement. And even India, India is dropping faster than expected. If this keeps going, by the year 2100, half of humanity's countries will be shrinking. And that's without war, famine, global catastrophes. It's just organic collapse. Or is it organic? Because there's no single reason being given for the fertility collapse. Mainstream explanations include stress, processed food, alcohol, pollution, social change, economic anxiety, people just choosing not to have kids. But isn't that exactly the point? If they hit us with one big sterilization event, we'd fight back from that. We'd say like, no, like this is wrong and you can't take this away from us. But if they erode us with 1,000 small cuts, we don't notice it until it's too late, right? So let's break down the key culprits. So you've got plastics and endocrine disruptors. So your water bottle, your microwave containers, your shampoo, your receipts, your freaking tin beans. Almost everything contains microplastics or BPA, phthalates, or other endocrine disrupting chemicals. These compounds, they mimic estrogen in the body, especially dangerous for developing babies and young men. Men today actually have lower testosterone than their granddads did at the same age, even if they're working out and eating clean. Testosterone is dropping about 1% per year in many countries. Sperm counts, they're down more than 50% in just 40 years. Is that a coincidence? Or is it chemical castration via everyday convenience. Next up, you got grooming products, which equates to hormonal havoc. Your moisturizer, estrogenic. Your sunscreen, testosterone blocker. That vegan all-natural soy shampoo might be turning your balls into eco maracas. Even laundry detergents can mess with fertility. I want to stress that it's not just that we're using more of these products, it's that everyday products now interact with your biology. So the convenient thing that you can buy from the supermarket and it makes your life real easy and you wash yourself with it and you ingest it, whatever, might not be the best thing for you, for your body. So really try and do your research on the products you buy. Again, I'm no medical professional, I'm no scientist, but there's a bunch of things you can find online. There's so much advice about the stuff you can use on your body that's not harmful to you, to your testosterone, to your estrogen, to whatever it might be that would be affecting your body. So definitely do some research on it and maybe ditch the kind of go-to product that you just buy for convenience. Next up, you got the mental sterilization, which is kind of like a culture shift, because you can't ignore the psychological angle that comes with it, because it's not just that people can't have kids, it's that a lot of people now don't want to have kids. They say things like, the world's too scary, I want to keep traveling, like climate change, it's selfish to bring kids into this hellscape. And that's not just a vibe that you just came out of nowhere and thought. It's a form of social engineering. We are being programmed to see reproduction as a burden instead of a biological destiny, because there's no way that we can make this world a better place again if no one's having babies. Pretty much. That's just how I see it. Next up, you got the food supply manipulation, right? Food is definitely a massive factor in this plan. We are getting ultra-processed seed oils, soy in everything, GMO gains, hormone-injected meats, veganism. You know, I'm just going to throw it out there. Veganism, that's being pushed aggressively and has been for years. And now it's in schools and on TikTok and by celebrities who mysteriously still look like they eat steak. And again, I'm not saying that veganism is right or wrong. It's not right for me personally, but it's definitely something that seems to be overly pushed and has been overly pushed for years. I feel like if you're vegan and that's your lifestyle, like, great, awesome, and I'm glad that there's so many products for you now. I just wonder if those products are any better for you than the products that everybody else gets. I mean, I feel like this food supply manipulation doesn't just stop at veganism. I think it's also a massive thing there too. Unless you're kind of growing your own stuff and living off your land, then hey, I'm all for that. Like, yes, that's great. And it's not like I'm saying this or that, it's bad for you specifically or bad for you on their own and that's it, you're going to die from this or whatever, but I think it's just that it's all omnipresent. If you eat anything that comes in a box, can, or app-delivered tub, chances are it's probably attacking your sperm or attacking your body. Even insect protein, it is pushed as eco-friendly, like insect protein, but that also may contain chitin, which humans don't digest, but may still impact the gut biome and hormonal balance, right? So the way I'm looking at it is they're telling us and they're forcing us and they're rewiring our brains to feed us bugs and fake meat and estrogen cocktails while telling us that we're the heroes for not reproducing. It's literally written like so clearly. But there's so many real consequences that come with this. Civilizational decline is a massive risk because when fertility drops, everything drops. The economy would shrink, innovation would die off, military, there's no more recruits, culture becomes nostalgic, and you lose hope. And while people are too busy filming TikToks of their oat milk lattes and sterilized avocado toasts, the elite are still reproducing. They're raising tribes, they're building dynasties. They're not sterilizing themselves, they're sterilizing you. Because they don't need to kill us. They just need us to stop making more of us. They're not doing it with war, not doing it with the law, not with force, but with plastic bottles, soy lattes, and gender-neutral sunscreen. And when we finally realise what's happening, we'll be standing in a childless apartment surrounded by empty houseplants, wondering why it's so quiet. Okay, let's do a quick vibe check. If you had all the money in the world and zero empathy, and you knew the world was about to descend into a cocktail of infertility, AI surveillance, riots over cricket burgers, and collapsing currencies, what would you do? That's right, you'd build a giant underground panic room stocked with filtered air, vintage wine, AR-15s, and a chef who signed an NDA. And that's exactly what they've done. So let's take a look at something that is kind of a repercussion of maybe the depopulation agenda and how the elites are preparing. So, the new rich man's hobby is definitely to build apocalypse-proof hideouts. Over the last decade, billionaires and ultra-wealthy families have been buying up remote land and building bunkers like it's a midlife crisis sport. New Zealand is a favourite, so much so that the locals call it the Lifeboat Nation. Peter Thiel bought 200 hectares and even got citizenship there, despite never living there. Tell you, rich people can just get passports like you and I get meal deals. And then in the US, companies like Survival Condo sell luxury underground missile silos turned into 5-star apocalypse living. They come with indoor pools, cinema rooms, hydroponic farms, armed security, private vaults, DNA storage labs. Yep, DNA storage labs. Because nothing says, I believe in humanity, like keeping a backup copy of yourself in a fridge. And I saw on TikTok recently, actually, where this crypto guy was showing off his bunker plans. He had filtered air, backup energy grids. He had like a retractable roof or something. And he even had a biometric kill switch, which is crazy. I can't even get Wi-Fi in my kitchen, let alone a biometric kill switch. And also, what happens with all of that stuff when the world ends and the VPN goes down and like you have to wait for the 4G to come back on to open it with the biometrics? Like, I don't know. But that's one of the only examples I've seen where someone actually showing their plans of their bunker, because a lot of people don't talk about it publicly, obviously, because they want to protect it and they want people showing up if the world does end. But these elites, they do go on TV and they do all these talks and they're sitting on panels, smiling, talking about sustainability, while they're in the background privately installing blast-proof doors and armed escape routes. Like, they do TED Talks about equity while building genetic vaults in underground labs. This tells me that they know. They know what's coming, they helped cause it, and now they're hiding from the fire that they've set. That's literally all it tells me. And it's not just bunkers. These tech billionaires or whatever, they have private islands, secret airstrips, remote compounds. Like, Mark Zuckerberg has literally built a $270 million compound in Kauai with blast doors and a secret tunnel. Jeff Bezos bought up hundreds of thousands of acres and installed secret airstrips in remote desert regions. And Elon Musk, well, he's busy building his escape hatch to Mars, isn't he? That man's just like looks at Earth and he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Don't blame him. Some of them even have private security armies on retainer, right? And these aren't just, your mall cops. These are ex-special forces with NDAs longer than your entire lifespan. Some of these compounds, some of these bunkers are also built with cryogenic chambers, embryo freezers, cloning tech partnerships, and even genetic curation programs. Because I guess they want to reboot civilization after the cull, but without us. They don't want us. They want the best genes their genes preserved in a digital or biological format. They don't want equality, they want immortality, and they're not bringing us with them, basically. And I get it. If it was just rich people prepping for floods or a natural disaster, sure, fair play. But it doesn't seem that way. It's secret hideouts, private biotech, DNA vaults, sterilized masses, and no one seems to be talking about it. These don't seem like just in case shelters. They seem like control rooms, basically, where when the dust settles and the world has been sterilized, cold, and reset, they emerge untouched, unapologetic, and ready to start again with fewer people, more control, and no one left to question it. Alright, let's bring it home. We've gone from vaccines to bunkers, Agenda 2030 to sterilized sushi, sperm count to Soylent Green. We've looked at the players, Gates, the UN, the billionaires. We've seen the tools, tech, food, climate fear, social engineering. We've seen the warning signs from guidestones, declining births, and behavioral shifts. But now comes the ultimate question. Is it already happening? Are we in the depopulation agenda right now? Not at the start, but midway through the plan? Because if you step back and just look at the world for what it is today, it doesn't look like a society accidentally in decline. It looks like a project in progress. So let's review the evidence. Fertility has crashed in every major industrialized country, and it's accelerating. Sperm counts have halved in 40 years. Endocrine disruptors are in your water, food, clothes, receipts, lip balm, and shampoo. Young people are being conditioned to not have children or even relationships. Climate fear is weaponized to discourage reproduction, meat, property, travel, independence. Agenda 2030 literally lays out a future where everything is monitored, rationed, and centrally controlled. Private billionaires have exit plans, the population curve has turned, and the most terrifying part, we're not resisting. So could this be called quiet genocide? No gas chambers, no bombs, no famines, but chemical sterilization, cultural demoralization, controlled collapse, soft nudges towards extinction, a world where you slowly stop wanting to exist and no one notices until it's too late. And that's the horror. It's not dramatic, it's administered, like a spreadsheet of population stats gradually being zeroed out. And why would they do it? They do it for power, control, longevity, because fewer people are easier to control, because the earth has finite resources and they want all of them. Because the fewer of us there are, the less noise they have to deal with. And maybe because they believe they are gods, that they can redesign society in their image, that our extinction is their masterpiece. And I could only imagine going back in time and telling a caveman that this is how it ends. just imagine being a caveman. You're building fire. Oh, fire, fire. You're learning to walk upright. You invented the wheel. Also, 40,000 years later, your descendants could get sterilized by shampoo ad and a vegan sausage roll. This has been a long one today, but I'm wrapping up. I'll shut up soon. And, maybe this whole thing isn't a theory. Maybe it's not a plan. Maybe it's a vibe. A slow global vibe where nature is worshipped more than life, reproduction is discouraged, comfort is weaponized, individual freedom is surrendered for the illusion of safety. And by the time we realize what's happened, we'll be standing on a sterilized planet with no kids, no future, no resistance, while a small group of elites emerge from their bunkers and say, "We saved the Earth, you're welcome." So I know that was a long one, but there you have it. The depopulation agenda, not as a plan, but as reality. So next time you hear someone say, "It's just a conspiracy theory," you say, "So is birth control, so is fluoride, so is climate scoring and digital ID and antinatalism, TikTok filters." Stay skeptical, stay loud, and for God's sake, stay reproductively viable. As always, if you've got your own theories or stories, drop me a DM or message me on socials. You can get involved in the comments on Spotify or YouTube. You can also find me on TikTok and Instagram at Conspiracy, or email me conspiracy@gmail.com. So go ahead, drop the first comment and get the conversation started. And feel free to leave me a review if you enjoyed today's episode. Conspiracy. This has been Conspiracy. I've been Ash, your genetically unmodified host, I think, and I'll see you next week for another deep dive into the world of conspiracies. Until then, don't drink the water, and definitely don't trust the crickets. And remember, the truth is out there.